Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Future State Week 7, where we're going to be reviewing Catwoman number 2, Future State Nightwing number 2, Future State Superman Worlds of War number 2, The Next Batman number 4, Future State Shazam number 2, and Immortal Wonder Woman number 2, Future State. And as you can see behind me here, I thought it would be appropriate to have symbols representing how I feel watching and reading the story of Future State. I gotta tell you, there are, as with every week, we have some highs and boy, we have some lows. And unfortunately, I think this week we probably have perhaps a few more lows than I would like. But I will say that I was generally happy this week with how Catwoman has ended. Nightwing I thought was decent. And even Superman Worlds of War I thought was beautifully illustrated. And sort of as a nice cap-off and introduction as to where these Superman titles might be going. And again, overall, I personally would like a more character-based Superman story that's more earthbound as opposed to being on Warworld. But I gotta tell you that, you know, the Mikel Janon's art, which is very much geared toward epic moments of just beautifully illustrated Superman in action. I gotta tell you, it makes me wish that the Superman Worlds of War was really more of an annual, a double page annual, and we didn't have the backups in the Superman Worlds of War with the Midnighter and the Black Racer and the Mr. Miracle. I would have preferred just having the Superman Worlds of War be just the Superman story. I really think the Midnighter story, the Mr. Miracle backup, and the Black Racer backups have really sort of taken away from the impact that Superman Worlds of War story could have had it just been in one oversized, nice annual, sort of introducing us into the Superman moving into March. I mean, even if you're not into the story, and we can criticize the story, yes, but I think it would show better, and I think it would have, frankly, I think it would probably, I mean, I hear sales are okay, but I think marketing-wise, they really blew it on this. But in any event, the next Batman wasn't actually that bad either. I thought it ended decently. It didn't actually end, whereas Catwoman, Nightwing actually they ended. Superman Worlds of War obviously has not ended. The next Batman has not ended, which I suppose is to be expected because there's Superman and Batman, and that's leading into March, and I guess they want us to get us excited for these stories. But in any event, the two just horrific, just really bad. Again, we've got Shazam this week, which is just not particularly good, and Immortal Wonder Woman, which Jen Bartel's art is fantastic on Immortal Wonder Woman. We're going to be getting into it. Beautiful art in Immortal Wonder Woman again. In fact, Jen Bartel's art actually improves, and I'll be showing some of that. Unfortunately, the story-wise, Becky Cloonan, I know you're a better writer than this, man. I've followed you a lot with your indie work, and I like some of your work at Marvel. Becky Cloonan, I'm really worried about what this says about what your Wonder Woman's going to be like, because this wasn't a story. Immortal Wonder Woman just wasn't a story, but we'll be getting into that. But let's get into it. So first, the story is the Catwoman story. And this was the great train robbery finale. And wow, what a finale it was. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Essentially, I think it's in the timeline is a little bit confusing. I think it's in 2025. And the timeline is Catwoman, along with the help from her strays, are robbing a train, and they discover on the train is Bruce Wayne. This train is hauling a prisoner, and it's Bruce Wayne. And I don't even think Selina knew that. But on the train, she Onomatopoeia. There's that villain, Onomatopoeia, whatever. I can't pronounce it. It doesn't matter. But she runs across him, and she's hallucinating. She hallucinates that she's seeing the Batman, And meanwhile, Anna Matea's basically trying to wake her up and give her a bitch slap. And she runs into Bruce Wayne. And of course, they have a nice moment together. Talia looks on. And I thought this was I actually thought this was a pretty good story. I thought it worked rather well. The writer is Ram V. Otto Schmidt's art. I thought Otto Schmidt's art was a little lacking this issue. I thought it was better on the first go around, but Ram V is the writer. He generally gets this. This ends with Catwoman and Bruce Wayne having to go their separate ways. Bruce Wayne explaining to her that as long as the magistrate thinks that it's Bruce Wayne that causes the crash of the train, then that will allow Catwoman and the Strays to get away, and they won't necessarily get the blame for it. And it'll take a lot of the sort of like the PR off of them, allowing them to move on in greater safety, moving forward into the future. That is the Gotham-controlled, or magistrate-controlled Gotham. Tom Napolitano was the letterer. Liam Sharp did the cover for this issue. It was a really nice cover. And, again, I like this. It's 2 issues long. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has some really nice moments between Selina and Bruce. She dreams about Bruce, and of course, that's not surprising. He's actually on the plane. On the train. And again, just beautiful moments here. It's clear that Bruce Wayne, is that Bruce and Selina love each other. Selina is surprised to see Bruce, but when she sees him, she's quite happy. And she says, "When am I going to see you again?" Well, he says, "Well, just steal something." So, I mean, there's some nice moments here. The language is good. Ramvi does a good job, I think, with the dialogue. Otto Schmidt with the art. This really does feel like a train heist. There's a great scene where the cars of the train are sort of separating apart, and Selina and Bruce are saying goodbye because they know they got to go their separate ways because they both have their jobs to play, their roles to play, and perhaps their different destinies moving into the future, whatever that might be. I thought overall this was pretty well done when you consider that there was only 2 issues to put lipstick on the pig that is Future State. Now, moving into Nightwing, Andrew Constant is the writer on Nightwing, Nicola Scott is the artist, and Ivan Palencia is the colorist. Wes Abbott, the letterer with the Yasmin Putri, did the cover. Now, I thought this wasn't as good as the first Nightwing issue, but at least it had an ending, and it was nice to see Batman, Jace Fox as Batman, team up with Nightwing, and Nightwing even makes the joke that they're a dynamic duo. Nightwing's plan here, obviously, is to go out. Nightwing has lured all of the Magistrate's forces, and Peacekeeper number 6 has lured the Peacekeeper forces, the Magistrate's forces, and the Peacekeeper number 6 to him and his headquarters at Arkham Asylum, and they're prepared to do some battle. And there's a great scene here where Jace calls upon the rest of the Bat family, the Resistance, I guess you could call it, to sort of help Nightwing out. There's a beautiful moment here. Dick Grayson has always thought of himself in many ways as sort of like the sidekick, as sort of the guy that has to get things done, but he's never really maybe had an appreciation as to just how well he is loved and how much he was respected. Bruce Wayne might be Batman in reality, but I think the heart and soul of Batman has always been Dick Grayson, meaning the heart and soul of the Batman legacy has been embodied by Dick Grayson, because Dick Grayson, in many ways, his life was fundamentally changed by the trauma when he was young and he lost his parents. But he never became drowned in the darkness to the degree that Bruce Wayne was. And he always kept a sense of humor and his sort of whimsical, acrobatic ways, which have also had an impact on his personality. Dick Grayson has always been likable. And the Resistance here, consisting of Batgirl, Huntress, Talia al Ghul, Man-Bat, Robin, Batwoman, Oracle's in on it, obviously, and even Two-Face, which is a rather strange addition to this Resistance. They clearly have a healthy respect for Dick Grayson, and it shows. And again, there's a beautiful ending sequence here where, you know, they're talking about moving on, moving toward another day in order to fight their ongoing battle against the magistrate. Now, if there's a criticism with the story, if you just focus on the story, this is 2 issues and it's all well and good. On the other hand, if you really want to get nitpicky, this timeline here, I'm not sure how this timeline lines up. Does this take place in 2025 or 2027 or 2035? I'm not really sure. Honestly, I could take the time. I had the option earlier before I did this to take the time to actually go through and to plot on a graph the timeline of all these future stage stories. And I happen to know that I did that. I've done that a little bit in my head for some of the stories, and you know how Flash goes into Teen Titans, and Teen Titans kind of links into Shazam, and Shazam will link into Suicide Squad, the Black Adam story. There is a sequence of events there for some of these stories, and I mean I might talk about that later, but for the most part, it kind of gives me a little bit of a headache, and we shouldn't have to do that. And it's a major criticism of the story, of the overall future state narrative, which is why I'm glad at least we get stories like this that you can just sort of turn your brain off a little bit and just enjoy the 2 issues and not try to overthink it. Now, moving on, Wonder Woman, Immortal Wonder Woman, you know, high compliments here to Jen Bartel, the artist. Her art is actually better this issue. I thought it was good in the first issue. I gave it high compliments. But this issue, she does a much better rendition of Darkseid. And overall, her Jen Bartel, who does her own, colors. This actually looks a lot better. If you just pick up the first issue of Immortal Wonder Woman and compare her the way she drew Darkseid to now, you can see this issue is actually much better. I thought the first one was good, but this was much better, and she's got a better handle on drawing Darkseid than she did in the first issue there. And unfortunately, as beautiful as the sequence is, this is just Darkseid and Superman basically dying. This is the end of time. The writers Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, I gotta say, I don't know what the point of this was. What was the point of this story? Literally everybody in this multiverse is dead. Wonder Woman ends up being the last person in the multiverse. She witnesses Superman and Darkseid die, and then she spends every second panel. She's crying all the time. She wanders into the floating globe of the Daily Planet. Why? She makes some allusion to the fact that she might have had a relationship or have feelings for Superman that went beyond friendship. And she hints at it. Why? I mean, again, that's all well and good, but we already saw Wonder Woman fail miserably at the end of Death Metal number 7, where the multiverse essentially would have died. The heroes failed. Everybody failed. It was the cosmic gods showing mercy that saved the multiverse, and in fact, didn't actually save it. They did remake it. So that's failure. At the end of Death Metal number 7, make no mistake, that was a failure. That was depression and misery and hatred and bigotry and all the evil and everything winning. That was the Batman who laughs ultimately winning. That wasn't Wonder Woman winning. That was Wonder Woman losing and the cosmic gods feeling sorry for Wonder Woman because she did the dumb thing of exercising compassion for them and sacrificing the rest of us. So Wonder Woman gave up on us, and she put the lives of the cosmic judges ahead of the rest of the multiverse. That's how I see it. That's how I'll always see it. Diana Wonder Woman was a failure at the end of Death Metal number 7. And here we are in Immortal Wonder Woman. Same nonsense, same stupidity. She's floating around for a millennia, does nothing, runs into the Spectre, kisses the Spectre off, talks about the Legion of Superheroes being wiped out by the unkindness or the undoing. Don't ask me what the difference is between the undoing and the unkindness. I know what the unkindness is. We saw that in the 853rd century in the future Justice League story, which was, I think, in the Suicide Squad number 1. So I know the unkindness consists of a lot of nefarious forces, evil forces. But what is the undoing? Not really sure, but the undoing, between the undoing, the four horsemen of apocalypse, and the unkindness, this all leads to the future where everybody loses, everybody dies. So this is future state is nothing about depression and loss and destruction. And Immortal Wonder Woman is obviously about failure, because at the end, she's the last person around. and she's depressed, and she should be because she's a failure. And then lo and behold, she decides the best thing she can do in an empty universe that is devoid of all life is to just become a constellation in the sky that nobody will ever see because everybody is dead. So Jen Bartel, you drew a beautiful, beautiful story. Unfortunately, this was an awful story, and you deserve better. Your art deserves a more intelligently written story where a little bit of more forethought would go into it. Becky Cloonan, Michael W. Conrad, I hope you can do better than this. Becky Cloonan, I sincerely hope you've put far more thought in your ongoing Wonder Woman series than you put in this, because this is awful. Sorry. Calling it like I see it. Future State, week 7, the next Batman #2. This was very blasé. I gotta say, I didn't really get much out of this. This is just Jace Fox, I guess, managing to transport to the only, apparently one of the few good police officers in Gotham, the two suspects. Last issue, in issue 3, this is issue 4, fourth and final issue, the next Batman decides that it's more important to turn in 2 parents who killed a pedophile that killed their child than it is to get his than it is to actually be a hero and go and help people that are actually bad. He wants to focus on parents that kill pedophiles. I don't know. It's hard for me to have a lot of respect for this Batman. I think this was a very, very poorly written story overall in terms of what it's trying to say about this next Batman. This was just wrong. It's trying to tell me, am I supposed to respect Batman now that he wants to turn in a mother, and the father ends up dying. The father, so this mother and father who killed a pedophile who killed their daughter are being turned in by the next Batman. The next Batman knows if he turns them in, the corrupt police force is going to end up killing them anyway. So why is he doing that? That's never explained. That's just plain stupidity. And to make it worse, Jace's mother is part of the corruption because she's all screwed up because their daughter was killed by a mask. And so she wants to create fascist laws to take down not just people with masks, but pretty much anybody that wants to fight for justice. This whole thing is a little bit off to me, but whatever. The art's serviceable. It's not bad. Probably the most interesting aspect of the next Batman, the 4 issues, and I give credit to John Ridley for this, is the characterizations of the Fox family. Fox family's pretty screwed up. Jace Fox is Batman. Luke Fox was the former Batwing. Luke Fox doesn't know his brother Jace is Batman. Meanwhile, Tanya Fox, the mother, she's working for the magistrate as a lawyer, trying to create and justify corrupt laws that can be used to kill masks. She doesn't get along with Lucius Fox. Lucius Fox is the screwed up father who apparently, because of the way he was treated in the Joker War, sort of made him a little bit more hardcore in his thinking. Meanwhile, you've got, it's Monica Fox. There's 2 other Foxes. One Fox, Tammy Fox, is in a coma. And then there's the other Fox, is it Monica Fox or something, that is the other sister who is, has some issues as well too. Overall, a lot crammed into 4 issues. I think that they could have, the high point was the characterization of the Fox family. I'm interested in knowing more about the Fox family and how they resolve their issues. Unfortunately, Jace Fox never does find out, Luke Fox never does find out that Jace Fox is Batman. So we're going to have to wait for future issues, if there is any coming up in March, that deals with that. I guess I'm not sure if I'm that interested in that, but I guess we are moving forward. I guess it'll be what it'll be. Batgirls was the backup feature, written by Vita Ayala and the art by Aneki. I actually enjoyed this. I thought the art here by Aneki was really good. Trisha Mullivel on the colors. The colors really popped off the page. I love the prison sequences here, the fighting in the prison. And the whole idea of this was to get the resistance, more of the resistance, Nightwing, Man-Bat, Batwoman, and Orphan, Talia al Ghul, and Tim Drake Robin, get them into essentially rescue the person that left them a message in the basement. At first, they were receiving messages from the prison that they may have initially thought were from Bruce Wayne, but of course they discover it was from Oracle. There's a beautiful scene here where, excuse me, there's a beautiful scene here where Nightwing Dick Grayson reunites with Barbara Gordon, Oracle. And it's, it's very well done. Great scene of Orphan discovering Oracle. And again, it's action-packed. The whole 2 issues has been action-packed. And so I've quite enjoyed this. This was one of the better ones. I liked it. And it was really great to see a nice... Anytime you see Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson get together, I always like that. I'm old school. I always think they're meant to be together. And, of course, you got Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain, best friends, looking in on the prison yard as they have talking about a new beginning and keeping the faith. So at least this was a feel-good story, and another one that at least ends after a number of issues, that we're not left with a bunch of question marks. Again, with respect to trying to fit this timeline-wise into the rest of the other stories in Future State, I'm not going to go out of my way trying to do that. It just gives me a headache. And I say again, if DC editorial doesn't seem to care about the timeline, why should we? The other week 7 in the next Batman, way too many stories in this next Batman. This one was the Gotham City Sirens, which actually wasn't really the Gotham City Sirens, because if it doesn't have Harley Quinn in it, it's not Gotham City Sirens. So this was a misnomer to begin with. Big mistake. But in any event, Dee, this robot, which is supposed to be, obviously, I think, the story filler for Harley Quinn, ends up being killed off, thank God. And again, this was okay. But, Dee was just a robot being used by her maker. And, Dee ends up dying, protecting Selina and Poison Ivy. Very derivative. No, didn't really get much out of this story. But I do like Emanuela Lapacino's art. I've always loved Emanuela Lapacino. I met her. She was kind enough to sign some of my Wonder Woman comics that she drew in New York City at the New York City Comic Con in October of 2019. So I just love Emanuela Lapacino's art. I love the colors here, and the colors are done by John Callis. And yeah, so... and a shout out to the inker Wade Von Grawbadger. I thought this, again, this was a sort of a typical, what I would call a typical Harley Quinn story that's not starring Harley Quinn, just other members of Gotham City Sirens. And, I guess they don't want Harley Quinn to hog the spotlight. Going on to Shazam. Now, this Shazam story is, this was a beautifully drawn, Eduardo Pansica is the artist on this, and Julio Ferreira does the inks. Tim Sheridan is the writer. Again, the writing here, it's been very much what I would call a disaster on the writing, going from Flash to Teen Titans to Shazam. This story doesn't end. It's called Devil's Due, and this apparently leads into the story of Black Adam, which would be in the Suicide Squad issue next week. I'm going to try to get this right, but at the end of what happened in the pages of the Future State Flash is that Wally West was taken over by Famine, who is one of the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse. And Flash ended horribly with Wally West, of course, losing and remaining possessed by Famine. And that led into Teen Titans, where the Teen Titans worked on a plan to get all the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse sucked up within the soul self of Raven. Raven then was taken by Shazam to the Rock of Eternity, where they were going to trap the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse in the Rock of Eternity forever. So what must have happened, because this is not shown, is that after Shazam takes Raven to the Rock of Eternity, Shazam then leaves, where over the next 2 years, between 2025 and 2027, Shazam continues to become corrupted, as he becomes corrupted in the first issue of Shazam and here. Meanwhile, Raven remains within the Rock of Eternity, containing the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse, so that they'll be protected by the rest of humanity. Pardon me. So that humanity will be protected from them, and that they can't escape the Rock of Eternity. Here we have Billy. Billy and Shazam have been split up, so that Billy is guarding the doors to the Rock of Eternity. What doesn't make any sense here, by the way, is why Billy is chained up like that, because it doesn't make any sense. He wasn't chained up before, but there's so many things here not explained. Neuron wants Billy to let them in the Rock of Eternity. The only way that the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse can be released from the power of attorney is if Shazam, who left the Rock of Eternity, left Raven there, comes back to our world. Him and Billy were split, and Billy's there to protect the Rock of Eternity. Meanwhile, Shazam had to go back to Earth to battle other evil forces that are attacking Earth, other evil spiritual forces that are attacking Earth. Now, what has happened, though, is that he's been captured. The evil forces that are attacking Earth, Shazam can see them, but he's being corrupted by Neuron. So Neuron is making Shazam see evil forces everywhere, even in innocent people, and that's why Shazam has ended up killing Johnny Thunder, and he's killed another of other heroes. And this has been a problem, and Shazam has killed him with a shard from the Spear of Destiny. And somehow people have been tricked, or Shazam's been tricked into destroying the Spear of Destiny, and also he ends up killing the Spectre. And the Spectre is one of the guardians that prevents evil spirit. He's the spirit of vengeance. And the spirit of vengeance helps protect humanity from all these evil spirits. One of the groups of evil spirits that are attacking Earth is the Unkindness. And we saw the Unkindness in the 853rd century of the Justice League of the 853rd century in the backup features of Suicide Squad. Also in the pages of Black Adam. So what happens is that we got the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse in the Rock of Eternity, and we've got the Unkindness being held at bay by the Spectre and Shazam. But what happens is that the Justice League doesn't realize that Shazam, that they think it's a good idea. They don't know this, so they figure that the way to uncorrupt Shazam is to have him change back into Billy. They don't realize by making Shazam turn back into Billy Batson, that's going to remove Billy Batson from the Rock of Eternity, allowing the Rock of Eternity doors to open up, allowing Raven, the corrupted Raven now, who's held back the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse, to escape and combine her power, I think, with the Unkindness, which will help destroy the multiverse. And you see here that when they call Billy back, that he's an older Billy, because I guess time is different on the Rock of Eternity. He looks terrible. But in any event, he says, "What did you do? Why did you do that?" And of course, that's when they clue things in. And of course, we have this new corrupted Raven. And I'm not sure, Raven is obviously corrupted by all the 7 horsemen of Apocalypse, famine, hunger, pestilence, etc., etc. And the Unkindness, I think she's corrupted by everything. She's got some interesting symbols around her belt. She's got the corrupted lightning bolt in front of her. I'm not really sure if she even has a name. He doesn't, Neuron worships her, doesn't call her by name. She has a deal with Neuron that if she escapes, Neuron can take over the Rock of Eternity and she'll go to Earth and corrupt it. But I'm not really sure exactly how this all plays out. But now that they've escaped, it's this Unkindness that will ultimately go into the future, and this will be continued in the pages of Black Adam next week. So a lot there to unpack. And everything I just told you, if I'm false or incorrect on some of the information, I apologize, but I'm trying to piece this all together. Again, I should say Tim Sheridan, there is a story here that had Tim Sheridan been able to organically develop a little bit more, I think would have been more interesting. But as it stands, it's fairly confusing, and I think it's lost me, and I'm not really particularly. I don't want this to be the future. I'm not really looking forward to Titans Academy anymore, because especially knowing it's going to lead to this. This is just a marketing wise. The editors here should be fired. They've done a really bad job here. Just a terrible job of piecing this all together. I don't think it's worked well at all. But at the same time, I mean, I've done my best. I've read this 2 or 3 times. Well, 3 times to try to piece together the story, and I'm sure I got some things wrong, and that you guys can correct me. I've made some assumptions which are probably false. I've made some guesstimates. As to the timelines, I just don't know. I've listened to other YouTubers, other podcasters, getting ideas from them because they can enlighten me, and they've noticed some things that I might bring up, but I don't know if anything of what I'm saying is actually accurate. But there you have it. Now we get into some Superman Worlds of War, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson and art by Mikel Janin. Mikel Janin's art here is absolutely fantastic. Jody Belair, the colorist, absolutely fantastic. I love the scenes on War World. Mikel Janin does such a fantastic job showing Superman doing battle as he has here. It just is amazing. And narratively, Philip Kennedy Johnson here does something that I like a little better than, it worked better in this issue than when he tried to do it for the first issue of this. He tells the story of a World War II veteran who grows up losing a son and a wife, and despite many bad things happening to him in his life, he fights for justice. He becomes he becomes a social justice warrior, and he fights for what's right, and he ultimately dies with nothing. He dies with nothing and broke and everything else, but Clark Kent figures he's a hero, and because of that, this character, and this young black character, is inspired by Clark Kent. And these are the same group of kids that at the beginning were talking about how great Superman was, and here we have them going to the old Ken farm and finding his rocket ship. And this whole thing feels like a story that should be told in a Superman annual. That this is about, look how great Superman is. He's not just great because he's Superman, he's great because he's Clark Kent. Clark Kent is great because Clark Kent's hero is an old World War II veteran that ultimately went his whole life fighting. And frankly, what's so depressing about this, and this is why I gotta tell you, I understand where Philip Kennedy Johnson was going with this, but this was ultimately just a really, really depressing tale. So depressing that I don't know, guys, if for any of you out there that this story resonates with, I actually wonder, is your life miserable? Does this story sound hopeful to you? Do you really want to aspire to be someone who as he gets older loses a daughter, loses a wife, and yet still fights for social justice everywhere and dies broke and penniless and an old war vet? Really? That's your idea of hope? This is who Clark Kent thinks is heroic? And this is a story that's told alongside Superman, battling, refusing to draw blood as Mongol completely tortures him, and here's Superman going on and on and on, doing battle relentlessly, fighting for it, telling Mongol point blank that I'm never gonna leave. I'm not gonna leave until everyone is unchained. Mongol could kill Superman at any time. Anytime. Now Mongol is choosing not to kill Superman, obviously, because Mongol wants to continue to torture him. Mongol is pissed off. Mongol doesn't want to kill this Superman in order and make him a martyr. So that's what this is all about. But I guess this is me being a cynical old bastard, but in other words, I get this. Philip Kennedy Johnson. This would have been a better story if it was contained in one story without the backups, which I'll get to, which weren't terrible, but they did not deserve to be in the same comic as this. This would have been a much better story had it been one full story in a nice graphic novel, one story, oversized for $7-8. This would have been a great lead-in into your story in March, Philip Johnson Kennedy. And but alas, it was not meant to be. Philip Kennedy Johnson, PKJ. But in any event, again, beautiful art. Jody Belair and the color is fantastic. And yeah, it's funny. Mikel Janin, it's been one comment that was made on the Weird Science podcast, DC podcast, which I encourage people to check out, is Jim and Eric were talking, and they made a good comment on that, was that a lot of Mikel Janin's art, you could actually remove the narration and replace it with any other kind of story, and it would work. You could literally tell any other kind of story. Instead of using the example of an old war vet, you could use an example of anybody, and just anybody who's fighting for justice. You could use any kind of narration. Mikel Janin is that type of artist that he's really good at drawing those type of epic moments here with Superman screaming and being a battle-hardened warrior, and it's while you're telling his alluding to another story with him as Clark Kent looking up to somebody else, and it's interesting. Let's continue on here, shall we? Oh my God. Yeah, let's cry. How many people would cry looking at a rocket ship? Like, why is she crying? Did I miss the memo? Like, I don't get it. And are we to believe that they cleared off the Kent farm? They cleared the Kent farm off. They got rid of the farm, and nobody knew to look underground. But this random African-American woman just wanders into a field one day and just says, "Oh yeah, I just came from a rally where we listened to speeches about Superman, or talked about Superman, and let's walk over to the Kent farm, and yeah, I know exactly where the rocket ship is." Come on. I mean, it's okay, I guess. It's just, again, it's just writing for a new generation, So let's just ignore it. We don't have to make the story make sense. Let's just move on. Anyways, whatever. This Mr. Miracle story was really, really bad. This was a backup. Guys, if you want a reason not to pick up the new Mr. Miracle series coming out, and you want inspiration not to do that, just read this. This is awful. I don't know. I read this a couple times. I went back and I read the previous issues. I read this whole Mr. Miracle thing from beginning to end. I don't get it. Apparently he's in some sort of time loop where he keeps going back in time, and he's sending messages to himself backwards in time. I don't get it. This was really, really, truly badly done. Brandon Easton is the writer here, man. Honestly, I would think they would have put a gun to your head to write something this bad. This just makes no sense. Straight up. And I'm somebody who loves time travel tales. I love time travel tales. But there's one rule when you're going to write a time travel tale, and that is I want to swear. That's how bad this is. But this just doesn't make any sense. And it's boring as hell. This was a complete waste of time. We're never really told what his power set is, why we should care, what he's doing. Far too much narration, terrible art. I'm not even going to mention the artist. Let's move past it. Midnighter Future State Part 2. This was, again, Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad. Oh my God, this is awful. This is another one where I don't know what happened here. This involves time travel. Apparently, I don't even know where to start here, but apparently, guys, Midnighter is sent from Earth. Somebody called him to go to Warworld. He was trying to get some Neridium. He was told to go to Warworld to get Neridium. Now, who was telling him to go to Warworld to get the Neridium? And what's Neridium? Well, Neridium is a cheap form of kryptonite that apparently this guy who's impersonating Apollo, his gay lover, God, this guy that's impersonating Apollo is this guy named Trojan, as in Trojan condom, Andre Trojan Solutions. Again, so many stupid names. Anyways, apparently this War World, I don't really understand this. There's a waste product that War World produces. Whatever powers, is it the exhaust that War World produces or the garbage? The garbage is actually is a substance that when you take it and you age it 1,000,000 years in a time machine, it turns into iridium, which is a cheap form of kryptonite that can be used against Superman. It's so stupid. Anyways, so Midnighter is, I don't know, this is one long protracted fight scene, and I just don't get it. And apparently this Trojan guy is a robot, and apparently in the present, because this takes place at some time in the future, we don't know when, this Trojan guy is now a complete robot. He used to be human, and it ends with Midnighter talking to his past self. It was actually his past self who sent him into the future, which doesn't make any sense to me, because if it's your past self, then how would you not know about it if you're in the future and it was your past talking to you? If it's your past, then it already happened to you, then you'd know. So I don't understand that. This is just garbage storytelling. It's too bad, because there were some nice dialogue moments here where Midnighter's being a smartass. So I think Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad or whatever, I think they get the dialogue, they get the voice of Midnighter correct, and his sarcasm when he's both. I mean, I don't understand. He's young. There's a young Midnighter in here. There's an older Midnighter in here. There's a baby Midnighter in here, all as an after effect of this time machine that Trojan's working on, that's on Warworld, and I don't understand why. And anyways, I just want this to end. This wasn't very good. Anyways, moving on. Future State Black Racer. Jeremy Adams, the writer. Saya is the artist. This was okay. Yeah, it was okay. Jeremy Adams, you did a decent job here. This has an ending. Black Racer seems kind of cool. It reminds me a little bit of that Alita Battle Angel. I think it's kind of cool. Again, not a lot of substance to the story going on here, but it's good enough, I guess. Yeah, it is what it is. In any event, how do I rate all this stuff? Well, Wonder Woman or Catwoman was the best, followed by Nightwing, followed by Superman Worlds of War, the next Batman, followed by Shazam, and last place I had to put Immortal Wonder Woman. That's just what I had to do. Now, the backup stories, clearly the worst backup story was likely, it was Midnight. Well, it was Mr. Miracle and Midnighter. The backup stories in Superman Worlds of War, absolutely awful. I'm really not looking forward to Superman Worlds of War. So disappointing. I'm not looking forward to any more Becky Cloonan on Wonder Woman. Her Immortal Wonder Woman is awful. I'm really, really worried about Superman and Wonder Woman moving forward. Not happy at all with what I'm reading about what we can expect from either of those titles. But I'm a completionist on Wonder Woman. I've been collecting Wonder Woman my whole life, and I got every issue of Wonder Woman going back to probably, I think, 1964 or whatever it is. But so I got to get it, and I will. But man, it's not looking good. But we shall see. Anyways, guys, tell me what you think of Future State Week 7. I thought it was blah. I'll have to go back and edit out some swearing that I did earlier. And so you'll probably just see a black screen or something like that. I'll figure out how to edit it out, because I said a 4-letter word, because some of this was just garbage this week. But, meh, it is what it is. Guys, tell me what you think of this garbage week, and I'll catch you later. Whoa.